Hi there, this is Art and Such, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Dreamcatcher with 3 connected rings. So my 3 rings are larger, smaller, and very small. I think we're looking at, I've got roughly 4 inches, maybe 12 inches, and this one looks like maybe closer to 18. You can use 3 hoops that are all equal in size. That's another option. And they can definitely be smaller than these or larger. If you wanted to do 2 rings instead of 3 or multiple rings together, the same principles will apply. For wrapping, I'm going to be using a kind of white suede. It's a millimeter or so in thickness, and I have the ends cut so that they're slanted at the end. And that way, when you finish off a section, they connect very prettily. These endings are also, they work very well when you're putting the beads on. The beads and the feathers on to hang from the sides later. You can also use wool or leather or string. I find this sticks very nicely and it has a nice look to it in the end. I'm going to be attaching it with Eileen's leather glue. They also sell an Eileen's leather and suede, and you might find that tacky glue or even white glue will serve your purposes if you're using a lighter material. The length of your string is entirely up to you. The longer you can get them, the better. And I'm hoping I have enough pieces here, but if not, I'll show you how you can cut it off of a longer or larger size. Now I have some special leather cutting scissors, but you will probably be fine if you've got a standard sewing or kitchen pair. Okay. For the web, the weaving part, I've got black imitation sinew roll. These also come in tan and a variety of other colors. If you don't have access to that, you can definitely use string or thread or lace or plastic lace, ribbon, whatever, it's up to you. Again, same principles apply. And you will probably be wanting a needle with a wide eye to thread your thread on. So let me put that on the side here. If you have beads or charms that you want to incorporate into the middle, I would highly encourage it. I've found 3 of different sizes for mine. I'll be using the large one in my largest ring, the middle-sized one in the middle ring, and I'll be putting the small white one on the bottom. Again, your beads can all be of the same size. They can match each other, they can be different. They could be charms or old jewelry pieces, entirely up to you. The last thing, this is starting to go bad, but if you've got clear nail polish, I like having that on hand to finish off the back of the knots. It helps hold it. And feathers. I've got a big bag here, so I'm gonna pick probably some white feathers and maybe some pinks and whatnot at the end. So I think that's about everything. I'm just gonna use an old paintbrush as the applicator for the glue, but you can use a toothpick, a popsicle stick, or just pour it out and dip things in whatever's working. So to begin, we'll take our glue, open it up, get our leather piece handy. You can decide if there's a specific place you want to start your ring. That's where you'll glue first. So I'm going to put a very small amount of my glue onto the bottom of the leather, or suede in this case. Put the lid on the glue so it doesn't dry right away. And wrap it carefully under. And I want to go over one more time to Make that a little extra secure. And we start bringing it over and under, over, under, around. I'm gonna hold this here. If that's a problem for you, you can use a twist tie or something else to keep it in place, but I like to hold it up to about 30 seconds. Now, some people prefer to overlap their wrapping. I like to line mine up side by side. You can do this whichever way you prefer. I will warn you though, if you let go, it's gonna start loosening up and unraveling. So make sure you've got a little bit of a grip on the back there as you're wrapping around. Now, if when I let go of this top part, it comes loose, we'll have to do a sort of secondary gluing, maybe clamp it down a little bit better, but I'm hoping that it works. I think we're okay. Okay, so I'm gonna cautiously let go and keep wrapping. Now, I had said you can choose for yourself how long you want your pieces to be. If you have a shorter piece, then you will have to do this process, the starting and finishing more often, more times, and there will be more places around the ring where it can let go. However, if you are using one really long continuous piece, you might be finding already that it takes a long time to get the whole end, the whole tail through and around. So it will go faster if it's shorter, but there's going to be that added step of of adding more pieces as you go. As it happens, this suede wrap that I have here was given to me pre-cut to these lengths, so that's what I'm working with. If you've got it on a roll, you might find that's easier for you. And if you feel like it's not completely smooth and even, feel free to pause and do a little trim on the side, although you're probably better to try and catch those rough edges before you start wrapping, just because, as I say, once you let go, it's hard to keep it in place. And it almost twisted around on me there, so trying to catch that and make sure that doesn't happen. I was a little worried that I wouldn't have enough wrap for this, but I think I'm going to be just fine, so that makes me happy. Many of my colors are in smaller, like little sandwich bags, small amounts, but I did find I've got a larger volume of pink and a larger volume of white, and I thought the white would be nice. It's a summery day. We'll go with light colors on the outside and then the black in the middle for the contrast. If you're wondering about material prices, just talk, well, you gotta watch me do this. It definitely varies, and there's a lot you can buy online, or you can go to local craft stores or indigenous craft stores. Leather and suede strips, I think you can be looking at anywhere from maybe $10 for a roll up to a larger sheet. You could pay $30 to $50 for you know, a meter of, or not even a meter, maybe a half meter of fabric. If you are trying to do this more cost efficiently, you might look at a thrift store or garage sales and try and get a hold of some old clothing with the made in the materials that you're looking for, and then you can cut it from there. And you want to try and cut on a bit of a curve. Maybe I can show you that in a couple of minutes here, and you know, get more use out of, or more mileage to the piece. I'm putting on a little bit of glue, decent amount of glue, because I want this to stay. My glue's looking like it's getting kind of old, and I'm going to hold that down, and I'm going to glue on my next piece at the same time here. If your pieces are a little bit extra long, that's okay. That's actually a good thing, because better long than short, and like here, this finishy one, I'm saying if I've got extra, that's not going to worry me because we want to have a little bit left to do kind of a holding piece. Although now I'm thinking about it, this is going to be connecting to the next ring, so extra long is extra good because we will, in this case, be joining it. So there, putting on the second one, gonna try to sort of wrap it over and then hold it nice and tight, and we'll keep wrapping while it's settling in there. Make sure my glue is sort of closed again. And there we are. Prices of other supplies, the Eileen's glue, $6 up to maybe $10 depending where you buy it. Not accounting for shipping costs and whatnot. The rings are probably the least expensive material you'll find, and they can go from I don't know, a matter of 60 cents or whatnot for a very small sized one, up to a couple of dollars, $3-4 for something very large, but they tend to be, you know, in the $1 to $2 range at many stores. And the imitation sinew, that I think costs about $20 for a slightly thicker roll for a full roll of that, and it goes an incredibly long way. You can make plenty of these before that stuff runs out. It doesn't go bad. It is a little sticky, which you'll find presently. Another good reason for the newspaper. It's kind of tacky. And trying to think what else. Most of the other things here, beads and nail polish and needles, they're basically dollar store items. You can also use charms and pieces off of jewelry, and I mean, depending on the kinds of beads and feathers and whatnot you're looking for, you can rack up a little bit of a bill, but you don't really have to. Okay, trying to see, am I still on camera there? Yeah, I think we're good. Alright, so I'm coming to near the end of my large ring. If you had a smaller one, you probably are finished and ahead of the game, and you can certainly jump ahead in the video if you're already to the next part there. Almost. Just make sure it's nice and snug along the way. If it makes you feel better, you can kind of press or check now and again the part that you glue to make sure it's still holding. You don't want that to unravel. And as I say, if you want to use a temporary tie, or like a twist tie is a good way to secure it if it needs extra drying time. And you might also find if the ring you're working with, the metal is too dirty or too clean, or just not compatible with the leathers of suede, sometimes it doesn't stick so well, but usually we're okay. Okay, so I've reached the bottom. I've got a little extra here. If you are all out or you're switching colors, you can glue it off and attach a new piece. But basically, we're just gonna continue. So I'm gonna line it up to my next ring and wrap it around both rings once or twice. So I've brought it under that second ring, back over the first one. You can do this a couple of times if you want to. And when you're ready, trying to get this nice and tight, we're going to just keep on wrapping. So now I'm going to start going around my next hoop. Pretty straightforward. It's not that much different, not that much harder than a standard Dreamcatcher. And you'll see once the wrapping's done, we'll be filling these in as you would basic Dreamcatcher. And I'm just going to do the center beads as I said. If you'd be interested in a tutorial that shows how to incorporate multiple beads throughout, that's something I can probably do for you. I haven't made such a one in a while, but they aren't too hard. I don't think, I can't remember, but I don't think I have a video like that up yet. So let me know if you'd be interested in seeing that. Or check out the rest of YouTube, and I'm sure there are such tutorials out there if you're looking for something a little different. But we're just gonna do basic dream catchers, basic weaving with central beads. I think it's gonna look nice. This part of the project always tires me out. It takes such a long time to make these, but they do look pretty cool. Okay, this one's almost done. The wrap, that is, before I need my next piece. So you can see it's holding pretty strong there. I might do a couple extra ones here. Now I'm actually at about the bottom part, so just a consideration. Do you know what? I'm gonna do this differently. That worked out nicely because I am at about the middle. So what I'm gonna do is my next piece is gonna start the next ring, and then we'll come back around. And I think that's gonna be a little bit cleaner. And that will stop me from having to add a second row and stop me from having to loop back all the way. So just bear with me, I'll show you what I mean. Okay. Some glue. I think that worked out to about the halfway point. If it's not exact, it's not terrible. But I think it's pretty close, so I'm happy with that. A little more glue and the next piece, and hopefully you are still rolling with the same long piece and not having to do a lot of stopping for gluing. It's a little bit of a bother, but that's okay. Okay. See, now this side is not as narrow and clean as I like, so I'm going to give it a bit of a upwards trim here just to make it more narrow, like so, and like so. This one's not as pretty a connection, and I'm going to put a little extra glue there too. This dries pretty darn fast. So try to overlap that just a little, give it a second wrap. One more time there. And now I'm going to get my next ring. And this is going to be a little hard to do while it's drying, but let's try and bring this one in. I might have to let this dry a little more before I've got my hand free to do this properly, but I'm going to try. Okay. Maybe we'll go this way. There. Okay. Yeah. Still feels kind of gluey. But what I'm trying to do here is start wrapping my next ring. Hopefully I can do this sort of one-handed, and by the time it gets back around, the glue will be all good and we'll be able to continue it up back into that top ring. Or middle ring rather, but the ring above that one. Let me turn this sideways. Back around. Okay. I feel like this is backwards. Let me turn it there. Okay, much more comfortable. And I feel like I might end up putting a little extra glue on there up here after, but we'll see. It's holding, it just looks a little floppy. Outside, so it's really bright when I'm looking to check the camera. I just want to make sure it says it's recording still, but a little hard to see the screen in the light. I think we're all good. Hopefully Hopefully I don't wanna do this again from scratch when I get finished, but not terrible if I do. That way at least we'd have a starting model, and then it'd be like, here's how we do this. But I would prefer to do this just the one time. Have my pretty Dreamcatcher and start a new project after that. Okay, it's coming around. I'm almost back to the end of that first, or that bottommost ring. I put this this paper bag here with the hopes that it'll be a little easier for you to see the white against that, instead of like as opposed to the newspapers. I had a pizza box I could have used too, but I figured this would be a little more neutral and could get more of this on the surface and on camera. Okay, so when we get back and have this all covered, we'll do the same thing backwards. So now go over the ring above and again, and keep looping that second circle back. So I've reconnected it, and it looks like we're holding here, so I think that's okay. Can always dab a little extra glue or something at the end if need be. I feel like this piece I've got cut here isn't going to be quite long enough, but maybe it'll come close, and at any rate I think one more hoop ought to do it. Or sorry, not hoop, one more strand of suede. It's going to come close though, I think. Okay. Keep looping. Wrapping. Now the beauty of this is, whether your piece ends up being a little short or a little long, at the end you're going to be finishing it the same way. And if you've got to trim a little, it's not so bad. It's totally okay. Oh, look how close that came. It's kind of crummy to have to add one on with like 2 inches left, but hey, well, I suppose there's probably some calculation by which one could measure exactly how much suede, if you're mathematically inclined and you want to figure out, I don't know, volume by thickness and distance and how much per wrap. I'm a little too lazy for that myself, but I suppose one could. I'm gonna see if I've got a slightly smaller piece on here so I don't have to break up some of my really nice long ones. I feel like these are all pretty long strips. We'll do this one. It is kind of long, but I'll use the other part for feather attachments and top hooks and stuff. Okay, let's put a little more there under that piece and connect final wrapping. I want this to be a little steeper. Another thing, if you are using a thicker kind of suede or leather, is that doing second layers like this are really going to show up as being much thicker. I know, yeah, certain materials, if you have to do 2 pieces over each other, you can definitely tell. This blends a little bit. It might look a touch lumpier, but I feel like it still comes up pretty clean. Also thinking, I've worked with some suedes that are incredibly thin and they tend to glue better. They sometimes look very nice, but you might find, depending on the color and your glue and whatnot, that sometimes the glue shows through, like soaks through a bit. Okay, let's go back over that previous section once or twice. And then you can decide if there's one side you'd prefer to have as the back, and that's where we're gonna, I'm still waiting for this part to glue. And then we're going to put some glue on at the back and secure that in. I wonder if I could hold both of these at once. We're gonna try. And I'm not gonna cut it just yet, but I will soon. Okay, close my glue. Press that as hard as you can, as tight as you can. If you want to actually tie it in a knot, like you can wrap it around and tie it in a knot while it's drying. That would be one option. Or twist tie, or you can do as I'm doing now and just hold it for a little while. And I'm gonna put the glue aside. We will be needing more suede or leather or string or wool strips like wrapping later, but we'll do that as finishing. We'll put a little piece to hang it by, and we'll be using these again for the feathers if you choose to have feathers on. I think that's okay. And as I say, if you want to tie this on with something, you can. I'm gonna just trim it a little bit higher there for now, and just put this piece aside. And we'll go on to the inner webbing here. So make sure your glue's lid is on. If you want to wipe off your glue applicator, you can. And okay, we can get started on the next piece. Now I am terrible for figuring out for measuring the right amount of the inner section. I'll just think for a minute. I think what I'm gonna do, okay, I'm gonna kind of guesstimate here about 1.5 meters length for every 8 inches, let's say. So I'm gonna try about 3 meters for the top one, probably about 2 meters for the middle one, and maybe about 1 meter for the small one. This is, as I say, there probably is a more practical way to figure this out. I'm gonna do about 3 meters for this, or about, like I say, about 1.5 meters for every, what did I say, about every 8 inches. And I'm, again, kind of estimating this by arm's length. So I'll stretch it across the length of my arms once, fold it over, bring it back twice. Third time, if it ends up a little bit short, maybe I'll even do an extra like half. If it ends up a little bit short, then we can tie on another one, but it doesn't look as nice, so I'm hoping it'll stay good. I like to keep this wrapped in a kind of a saran, just because it's sticky on the outside, and that keeps it all together and working nicely. The stickiness will, the tackiness will, you'll feel it on your fingers, but it does go away as you're using this. If you do have a much longer piece here, it's going through the needle there. If you've got a longer piece, prepare for the possibility of some knots or tangles, but and it's also going to take longer to get started here with the first weavings, but it tends to work out just fine. So one end went through the needle, you can pull it through quite a bit, and with the other, I'm going to go to the very top of my largest ring, or my top ring, and I like to tie it about the center here. I like to do it as tightly as I can, about 3 times, even 4. And I'm going to be covering this, but the last thing I want is for it to slip off. Okay. And 4. And I'm going to do this right now. I like to put a bit of clear nail polish on, or nail hardener, because I feel like that helps the knots to hold better over time. It slows down slipping. So I'm going to put a big dab there. Yeah, nail polish is definitely on my to-buy list. And don't worry if this looks a little bit funny here, we are going to be trimming it and we are going to be covering it. Okay, now I have to find my other end where the needle is. Yeah, that looks like it. Okay. So if you have done a basic Dreamcatcher before, you can go right ahead and jump to it. If this is new to you, and if you have done macrame, basic macrame, like a friendship bracelet, this knot will look familiar. If this is totally new terrain, then I'll show you. This is not so hard to do. What we're gonna do is take your end and we're gonna throw it right over the edge, and you can decide how wide apart you want your spaces to be. I think for this size of hoop, I'm probably gonna do about 4 inches to start. You can do that really nice and tight. You can do them wide apart. Like I say, I'm gonna do about 4, so that breaks us into, let's say about 12 or so sections. Now, the closer together they start, the more thread you will use and the faster it will disappear. It will look more intricate, but it's going to be a little more arduous of a process. So we bring it over, and you're going to take the end, and it goes over the curve and back up and through. So it's going straight over and then back under through this space that you've created. You can even pull it through that way. Now I've got a long piece, so bear with me. I'm gonna have to do some tugging and adjusting. Okay, so there we go. And I said I was gonna try about 4 inches with my target to be ending at that middle spot there. So you can pull it tight and straight. And we're going to repeat that at about the same distance. So it goes over, under, back up. A mistake that a lot of people will make is when they come back, they'll come under, but below. You want it to go up and into the hole that you've created, or the space you've created. Okay, so I'll try and show you slowly one more time after this, and then we'll go a little bit faster, and hopefully you'll be getting the hang. Okay. All right, nice and tight. If you are a very precise person and you want to even measure these, you could. Or, you know, another thought, if you wanted to put a dot, like a little pen dot or other kind of marker, like indicator to show you the spacing, that's another thing you can try. If you're really new to Dreamcatchers, and this is frustrating for you, you want to take a step back and do a little more practice first. There are notched hoops that you can buy, which have spaced out placements for the, I don't know, they're not really knots, but for the, you know, for the placement of your thing. Okay, so over, under, and through the hole. And yeah, I'm gonna try and go a little bit faster here because I've got a large one, so this will take a while. Now I can see I'm getting closer to the middle. So if I want it to line up here, I can see, I can make these each a little smaller. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Or I can make them each a little bigger. So I'm gonna loosen them each up and just adjust them a bit more so that that first one's a little tighter, then the second one will bring in a little tighter. Once you get the first row, you don't have to worry about this so much. It's really just the outer spacing that I'm concerning with myself with here. Once that's done, the rest will follow suit. I think those look pretty even. They are to my liking. I'm gonna get to the bottom, and you have, I guess, 2 options here. Let me trim the last of that leather piece. So when you get to that very bottom, you can either loop it once on either side, or you can loop it across both of them. I feel like looping it once on either side is going to look a little nicer, although it might affect the way that the pieces are sort of spaced out later, but I'm okay with that. I think it'll look nicer than going over the both together, so I'm going to do that and make it a bit of an experiment. I think it should be a neat effect, or you could also just space it out further on either side. That might have been a good technique. I wonder about that. What do you think? Should we do another one right here, or space it so that... I kind of want to do that. I want to do that. I'm sorry. I'm going to backtrack here a minute. If you want to go further in the video, you can, and I will be right with you. But I've decided I want this to be, yeah, we'll make it a little bigger again so that it lands closer to that center, and then it'll land neatly on either side. Actually going to bring it closer to where I had it in the first place. There. And you might find that you don't want or need, or like you might not have to do any of this fiddling around at all. I'm just playing with where mine is landing so that it's more to my liking. You'll see this will be worth it in the end. It's going to come out neat. Got a bigger one here now then. Let's make this go a little closer. Okay, and there. So you can see I've lined mine up on either side of that middle, and it did create larger loops, but I'm okay with that. Alternately, I could have made each of them smaller and then put in an extra one or two. And once more. The goal is to get it to line up, so you can even just measure for look eyeball across. Is it landing at about the same distance from the middle, and the same distance between each one? So something just with practice gets a little bit easier to figure out. And as I say, this is the first time around. It gets a little bit faster, a little smoother with each go. About right, and I feel like I've used up a lot of my thread already, which isn't so good, but it might still be okay. And we're getting close to the starting point, so let's do one more big one, and then I'm gonna go through that, or just over and under where that first knot is. Back to where we started. Okay. All I can smell now is nail polish. Alright, so that's one time around. And now we take our needle and we're going to repeat this, except instead of going over the rim and under, we go under the loop we've created. So we go under the loop and back up inside through that hole that we've created, and you want to try and center this as best you can. And you'll see the further in you get, the faster it'll start closing up, at least till you get like really close to the center, at which point it feels like it slows down a little, but we're going to be putting, or I'm going to be putting in the beads also, which cuts out a little bit of that tight most inner part. Still recording? Yeah. So I want to keep a little bit of tension, keep this tight, keep it flowing in. If you feel like you're running out of your thread, you can start moving the needle closer to the end. Because right now mine has like half the thing looped on it. And you can see I'm turning this as I go. We're not going to be incorporating the second ring just yet. I am working strictly on that first circle. And you can see I'm pinching it tight wherever I've looped it in so that it doesn't get all loose and floppy, which is one of the challenges of Dreamcatcher. So you really can't let go once you started it. Same with well, any kind of weaving really. Okay. So one of the things I like about Rainbow Loom and macrame is they are easier to put down once you get started. Easier to kind of keep your place. I feel like this is trying to form a knot on me. Sometimes these things will twist a little bit. No, we're okay. Once more, if you are working on a smaller ring, smaller hoop, which is quite possible, you might be dead ahead of me, in which case feel free to go on to the next loop. Okay, so now I'm back to the beginning. I'm gonna try and find the second of the rings, of the lines that we added, under, back up through, and continue around the same way. So here's the next one. Find the bottom one or the innermost one, go down through there, and when you come up on the inside of the hole that you've made. And this will take us all the way back around, and we keep doing this until we reach the middle. You can see my tail, the tail of the thread is getting longer than the part that I'm actually weaving, so I'm going to move my needle a little closer to the end. It does feel like it goes a little bit faster once some of that thread is used, because you don't have to pull as much through each time. I try to hold it over the edge, but sometimes you gotta pinch it right on the inside when it gets further in. It's okay. So as long as you're keeping a little tension there, it should be all good. This is the part where I start to worry that my thread's going to run out, which is a possibility, but I'm hoping not. As I say, I'm not so great at estimating lengths for materials. There must be a trick, but I haven't stumbled on it yet. I don't know how exact or how easy a science it is to sort out anyway, just on account, as I say, of the distance between your outer pieces and the effect that has on, how quickly you'll go through this. But in the worst case scenarios, we tie on another thread, which can be a little bit messy, but might be okay. Got a little knot happening here, and I'm afraid I think I will have to do that, but not just yet. So we'll keep going a little bit longer here, see how far we can make this one go. See, I did that. I went under and I didn't put it back up through the hole. So that wasn't supposed to happen, but easy to fix, easily remediable. Now, if you were in my position and your thread did run out, you could, for the fun of it, change colors and add a different color of thread. That's something I've seen done at times, but I would want to do that with, you know, something like that, maybe with more deliberate intention from the beginning rather than as a fluke kind of thing. Oh, so close, so close. Yeah, we're gonna need some more thread here. I got some to spare. Just a matter of putting it on. Okay, a couple more. When something like this happens and I've got an unseemly knot or shortness of thread or whatnot, I like to think of the story of Arachne, and I believe the legend goes that she was such a braggart, had so much pride about her tapestries that the gods punished her by turning her into a spider. And I think one of the lessons or ideas that that comes away from it, and something I think even my grandmother used to do, is when you make a mistake, sometimes it's kind of neat to leave it in. I'm gonna add another meter here to be safe. Meter or so. Kind of neat to leave it in because it shows we're only human, and it's, you know, it's handmade. It makes it that much more special because it's like more unique, and I think it's okay now and again to, you know, to have a mistake, where to have a little imperfection show, just to make it that much more special. Okay, so this is not as perfect as I would like it to be, but just finished saying that's okay. I'm gonna work with it anyways. I don't know if I like where that's not ended up. I think I'm gonna try and put it over the other side. Sorry, give me a second, or feel free to jump ahead. I will return to you shortly. No, that's okay. We're okay. Okay, let's put some polish on, and I can trim that pretty nice and short when this is done. I'm just gonna leave it as so for now. And keep on going. It's unfortunate. Now, the other alternative, which I have done too many a time, is if you ran into the situation, you could undo the whole thing and start it again with a larger piece. And I have been known to do that, but to be honest, even if you were to trim off the edges or unravel it bit by bit, it can still be a lot of work taking all of these sections out again. And I scratched myself. As I say, you've got options. You could switch colors. You could put beads on that layer to cover up the place where you've added it, or you could leave it in there and let there be, you know, a little knot. It's something I'm okay with sometimes. Okay, my newspapers, my paper bag is completely out of the way here, so let me get that back underneath 1 second. There, I'll get you that contrast to see better by again. And it looks like my camera battery is still good, so we'll keep on rocking here. You might be finding, as I am, if your thread is particularly long, it does sometimes like to catch on things. So if you've got scissors or a tripod or glue or whatever, there are times when it will catch on anything around and get a little stuck. But the nice thing about this imitation sinew is the waxiness does make it kind of slippy and easier to work with. Just gotta go under there. Okay, I'm getting closer to the middle. And our little loops here are going to start getting really nice and tight. And when we get to the middle, we can put our bead on. I'll show you how to do that shortly. Or again, you can jump ahead and see how to do that right now. after the bead goes in, I'm gonna have a water break. I brought my water and lemon juice out. It's not a hot day. It's actually kind of chill out here for once, but it's a little bit muggy. I've been doing a lot of talking, so refreshing water break would be nice. And if you, if you're ready for a break yourself, I would highly encourage you to get up and have a stretch. This is definitely hard on the back after a while, and I know depending on the size of your hoops and how fast you are at this can be a couple of hours to make. So definitely have a break if you're feeling the need. The worst case scenario, if you have to let go, you can sort of tie a temporary loose knot, or if you've got a sucker nearby, get them to hold it for you. Say, I'll be right back. Take your time. But you better be someone you trust. Okay. Almost. Getting so close to the middle here. I'm excited. I'm almost ready for the next ring. I've stopped turning this around, although I definitely could, and kind of does make it easier. I'm just going with this here. So after each one, I'm still continuing to pinch the previous knot. I'm still trying to center it as much as I can and keep this moving in the direction of the middle, as well as in the center of each of the sections there, because I don't want this to be all lopsided when I get to the middle piece. But if you spaced out your outer ring evenly, this should end up pretty close to the middle when we're done. These get a little bit harder to pinch when you get in there too. So this one I'm pinching from inside. Sometimes I can still grab it from, the back, but it gets a little bit harder to angle it if you're unless you're turning it, and then like turning your whole loop around as you go, and that will maybe give you more options. Okay. As you are getting close to the middle, you can decide if you want to leave a little space around the beads and bead or centerpiece and have it a touch loose, or if you want it really tight, and then you can put your charm or bead over, or kind of squish it really close into the middle. What I'm going to do is try and get it in tight enough just so that it's ever so slightly bigger, like just so it'll fit right around the size of the bead. So I can see it's still a little bit big, but I could probably put it in. Now I'm going to make it a little bit closer, but it's almost where I want it to be. Also, before you add a centerpiece, if you want it to be facing a particular way, you'll want to consider from which side you want to, like from where you want to bring it in from. So, just looking, this is the top, and let me see where we are size-wise. So if I put it in right now, that would be pretty close. I'm gonna go around one more time, make it a little bit tighter. Even though it's getting a bit hard to get my needle in there. Now, because I've used hoops of different sizes, my middle and bottom one should be a lot faster to work through, which is encouraging to me. If all of yours are the same size, then by now you should know exactly what to do with the second one. You're gonna mimic your first exactly, and you will hopefully know just what length you're needing and be ready to start on that. Okay, almost. I'm just going until it lines up with that top knot there. Now I could also put my bead in sideways. As it's round, that will look about the same, but I'd like to do it up and down, like through, so that the hole is gone through vertically. Okay, so I think that's probably where I want to be. Maybe one more. No, that's good. And I'm going to put my bead right in the middle there. Sort of squish it in, or you can have it sit on top. I'll put my needle and thread through from top to bottom. And I'm going to put it through one of the little woven intersections right across and pull through. And then I'm going to turn it over and go up through the back. And back to the front. And I like to do this 2 or 3 times. So down through and through the little knot and back up. And when you're ready, when you feel like it's in nice and tight and secure, you can make a little knot in the back. If you've got a larger bead like this, you could probably, possibly, theoretically even hide the knot inside of it. And I'm going to throw a bit of nail polish on again just to secure it. If you want to wait a little bit before cutting off the end, it's not a bad idea, just in case it comes loose. So to do my finishing knot here, I'm going to go under a nearby piece and come up and through the hole that I made. And I'll do that 1 or 2 times, not so many that it gets to be a big hole, but or a big knot, but a couple of times there. As I say, you can trim it or leave it or trim it the rest of the way later. I'm gonna put some nail polish on. You can let this dry before you continue, or you can start on your next section and then trim this later. It should dry pretty quickly. I suppose another option for that ending piece would also be glue, use something else you could use. I'm gonna try and trim my little knotted pieces as loose as I can to the knots, and these are generally pretty good at holding. Just watch that you don't cut here, any of the wrong threads while you're doing it. So that is the first part, and I think that looks okay. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the middle section, which in my case is a little bit smaller, so it should go faster. Now that top one I did about 3.5 meters, ran a little short and needed another meter. It was about 4. So I'm gonna try 3.5 meters now for the middle one. I'm thinking about that. Everything's trying to blow away here. So let's do about 1 arm's length, about 2, about 3. And in my defense, I haven't done one of these in like a year, so well, quite a long time anyways. A little bit out of shape with material length estimation game anyway. If you happen to have a successful formula, pass it along and I'll try to put it in the footnotes or mention it in another video, because I'm afraid I'm more of a, what do they say, I'm a measure once, cut twice kind of person, which doesn't usually work out well. Okay, I'm gonna tie on my next piece here, and I'm gonna try to do it so that the knot stays sort of at the back, although I could, no, let me trim off the last of that last wrapped piece there. Still a bit of overhang. Bother. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. Okay. This would be okay. And I'm gonna try to replicate what I did on the top one. So I'm gonna try and line it up so that the connecting part, like here, has a piece somewhat on either side. If that makes sense. Maybe a couple of knots. And I'll put on some nail polish. Incidentally, I don't think there's a particular brown to polish you need. Anything, really anything will do. I probably wouldn't go with pink, like neon pink though, or anything like that. Just because the clear will dry clear, right? And you don't have to worry about it getting on anything else. But I really don't think it matters what kind or brand or whatever, as long as it's a clear coat kind of thing. Start. My foot's falling asleep. Oh yeah, I was gonna have a water break. We have a quick sip and then we'll have a quick stretch here. Ooh, okay. This one's already wanting to tangle into everything. Just gotta get it going. It'll be good. This is super long right now, which means I have to pull a lot of it through each time. Okay, so I want it to land about here. Maybe about 4 sections. If I have 4 sections, that might do it, I'm thinking. Okay. To be honest, you don't really need the needle for most of this. It's more for the middler part. This part here, you could pretty well just throw the whole thing under and bring it through. But the needle also does help kind of control the fold and the length of it when it's super long to start. Okay, good. Yay, going smooth now. Alright. And the other side. And this will start to close in faster as it more goes, which is good. That first ring around, have to be very diligent in the spacing out, and then the rest goes a bit more easily. That's about right. Now if your hoops were small, if you're done already, you can jump ahead and go see the finishing off touches. This is gonna take me a little longer myself though. Now I have a decision. I can adjust the sizes of these so that I can end up back here, or okay, I'm gonna get as close to the center there. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go back through that first one, just under that knot, and make one more loop between. The alternative would be to skip right across it and go to that next one, but I think I'm gonna do this so it's sort of closed off, even if it does change the way that the inner circle sit a little. Okay, this is my next one. It's gotten really chilly out here. I was thinking I need to put my sweater back on. Maybe the sun will come out again. It's still somewhat early in the day here. Just trying to get that center in tight. And then can continue around the circle. Where did my needle go? I made one of these ones that I made into a snowman. It was kind of neat. And if you're interested in multi-ring projects, I do have a tutorial up for how to make a basic owl. And I have one for a kind of bird cage. And there are also one or two interlocking ones that I've got posted that show some different options if you have more than one hoop or ring to use. I've also seen, I don't remember if I've ever done this myself, but I've seen some Dreamcatchers where you have a top one and then others hang down perpendicularly, and it's almost more in a mobile kind of style. That's another direction you could go if you maybe have a larger ring and then some smaller ones. You can have a flat top or horizontal top Dreamcatcher and then hang others down vertically like so, or maybe more like that. That's another direction if you're interested. I encourage you to look it up, look into it. Let me know if that's something you'd really like to see. I have to move my needle down the line again. Got all these little white flakes on me. For a second I thought I was, sunburned and shedding, but I think it's just the leather. This suede is flaking off a little bit here and there. Sometimes it does. And my arms are getting freckled with little white dusty dots. It's getting a bit harder to turn now because I've got my larger one on top, sort of in the way. But soon I'll be closer to the middle, and then I don't think I'll feel the need to turn it quite as much. It definitely makes for easier going in the outer sections though. So far my length is looking good. So I think I measured the sinew thread better for the center one. To watch, it looks like my hoops are overlapping here and I don't want to catch this through one of the sections of my top hoop. That would be problematic at any rate. It's a big garbage truck or something going by. I keep forgetting it doesn't feel like a weekday because I'm not at work today. It feels like a weekend, but I guess it is a garbage day for somebody. No, I think our garbage day is tomorrow. So it's not coming to my house. Okay. Oh. Right. Coming along. Let's go on a bit faster. faster than that. It feels like it's going faster than the first one I did. Everything's going smooth, more than halfway, I would say. It is getting a little harder to grab and pinch my secured parts though. Sorry about all the noise. It really is loud out there. We got trucks and we got trains. I live pretty close to a train, which is kind of neat. It's actually a soothing sound after a while, and it rocks the house a little when it goes by. I grew up about a block from the train and then moved recently to within a block of another train, or railroad tracks, I should say. When I was a kid, my older brother, he used to get scared of the train. I remember we would walk along there, sometimes pick up the gravel, pick up the rocks. The trains where I am now, they sometimes be very long, and they come by frequently, but you don't get caught at them too often, and the sound is kind of soothing, although unfortunately it might be a little distracting in the background here, so my apologies if you're finding it is. Of course, you probably know what you're doing. Well, you hopefully know what you're doing by now on the Dreamcatcher, so if you wanted to mute it for a little while, I would understand. Under the rings. Sometimes I will try to do that. It really is a long train. It's been going a few minutes now, but sometimes they go a good 5 minutes, and if you are unfortunate enough to catch two trains crossing at the same time, sometimes you'll get a 5-minute one in one direction, 5 minutes in the other. Those are just long waits. But maybe it's passing by. I would like to know what that truck's doing at the end of my house. So I wonder if they're collecting something or doing tree work somewhere or something. It looks like they're just sitting at the end of our block. There was some road work happening just not too long ago, but I thought that was all done. Maybe they'll leave soon. You know, I could have done this inside, but I thought, fresh air, sunlight. Based kind of project outside in nature. Okay. I like it here with the birds and the trees and even a little breeze. And it's definitely warming again. So not a bad day for it. I know the last couple of days we've had temperatures up to the mid-30s, which not abnormal, but it's a little hard to sit in for too long. Short times though, it's quite pleasant. Yay, truck's leaving. I think we're back home now. I wonder what that was about. I don't think it even is a garbage truck. I can't quite see what it says. Bit of a mystery now. Backing up again. Maybe they're doing some kind of tree work. Almost to the center of my second piece here. Distracting, but just making the weaving time go by a little faster, I suppose. I find certain kinds of art flow better when you're paying less attention, if that makes sense. When you start over focusing and worrying about mistakes, then you get a little clumsier, but you get into a more meditative state where you're thinking of other things, and sometimes make stuff go more smoothly. It looks like this was just the perfect length I did, because we're getting really close and it's starting to get just a little short, but should be just enough and a little extra. And honestly, I've got no idea what length I want to cut for my last tooth, but I'll figure that out in a minute. Still, oh no, my battery's getting a little low, but we are getting close to finished on the weaving here. If I do a cutout, I'll make sure to do the second part as a part of the video, or if possible, I will really try to get them blended together, but as I say, we're getting closer to the end, so it's possible I can still make this in one shot. Here, and I'm going to get my blue bead on hand right away. I think I probably need to go around to the top one more time here. It's going to be a little snug, but it's alright. I'd rather it be a little snug than a little too loose. So, I mean, it depends on what kind of bead or charm you're using. If you are using a charm, you can definitely close up that whole middle section and then basically sew it on top. I wonder. No, keep going a little. You know what? I feel like looking at this now, I'm not sure if I got this quite as straight as I wanted on the top anyway, but it's pretty close. I think that's good. Be enough to my liking. Maybe that's 2 bars on the battery of my camera here. I might be able to make this. To make it to the end, I mean. Okay. Last one. And through my bead. Sorry, I should have mentioned this before. If your bead has a very small hole and it's not going to fit a large size needle through it, you can actually just sew it on with a different needle and thinner thread. I suppose you could try gluing it, but I'd advise against that. I don't think that would look as nice or be as secure, but that could be another option, I suppose. So same thing, I'm threading it through the back, poking it to the front, through the front, poke it through to the back. Once I've done this 3 or 4 times, I'm gonna put a knot in. And before I go further after this, I'm going to do the nail polish thing. Knot it off on here. The nail polish thing, and trim off nail polish from the top section if it's ready. Okay. Like I say, these actually hold surprisingly well. The knots when they're done. I know certain kinds of threads can snap or fray or tangle or slip apart. This stuff is really good for holding together. Okay, so this is what I've got so far. And one more hoop to go. This is the baby one. Should go pretty quickly. I think I'm gonna try maybe just over a meter. Just over a meter or a yard. So again, I'll measure an arm's length or so, an arm's length and a half maybe. I feel like that might even be too long, but I don't really want to have to add on another knot or undo and redo on such a small one. So I'm gonna try to overestimate here. And the method is exactly as before. This one, as I say, should be faster because it's such a small string. And I'm gonna try to put the knot on the back if I can. Do about 3 knots again, 3 or 4. 2. Okay, battery's still at 2 bars, that's good. 8. So we're actually getting really close to done. After this, I'll show you how to attach a little piece to hang it by, which is pretty fast. And then I'll show you what we can do for the feathers. Touch of polish, and that reminds me I didn't trim the thread on the knot on the section just above, so we'll do that quickly. There. And needle end. And these ones, if you have a smaller ring like this, you might choose to make to space your knots, your weavings, your whatever, a little bit closer together. So maybe I'll do them about 2 inches apart on this one. Actually, that's more like 1.5 inches, I'm thinking. And I can adjust it a little if I want to need. I think I'd like this one to have one of the spacings end right at the bottom here. That'll be nice if we decide to put feathers on at the very, very bottom. Right about there. About the middle point. Now you could also say that neither of these ended in the middle, and you could try to have that same effect. That would be, you know what, honestly it doesn't matter. You could do it either which way. Entirely a personal choice there. I feel like that knot I did completely wrong, so let's try that again. Yeah, I think I'm getting a bit clumsy. I've been doing this for too long here without proper break. Oh, no, I didn't do that wrong. I just didn't see it through all the way. Okay. Yeah, if my battery does die, I'm going to have to probably take everything inside, charge the camera up, and come back to this again in a couple hours, which should be a little bit crummy. Maybe I can go a little faster here somehow. Not usually a good strategy, but back through where we started again there. When my partner was showing me how to drive a standard car, he liked to say slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I think the idea there, which I kind of like, is the more you do something carefully, the better you get at doing it properly, and then the easier and faster it is to do in the future. And I feel like by nature I'm not a very patient person when it comes to doing things. I've gotten better at it, and I've gotten better at, you know, waiting and waiting rooms and whatnot, but I'm more of a jump in and let's just see what happens kind of gal most of the time. But it is true, sometimes a project will go funny if you try and rush it too much. Or you don't do things in, you know, the right careful order. something I've learned the hard way in school as well. I know something I've told my students, I tell other people, is when I learned my handwriting, I rushed through the booklet and kind of left it behind, and I spent the rest of my life writing slowly and carefully and typing things up, and it was much harder to try and learn proper form and make my writing legible after the fact. Yeah, if you start getting yourself into bad habits or practices, oh no, last battery bar, it's a lot harder to reverse later on. Oh no, last battery bar, and we're so close. Well, this might end up being a merged video or worst case scenario two-parter, but either way, we'll get you to the end of this. And if I cut off in the middle of a sentence, you'll know why, and I will do my very best to pick up as close to that place as I can. I remember when I started doing these videos, I used to do them on my phone, and the cutoff and, you know, the length I could do was so short. I ended up having all these different pieces to put together. It was very frustrating. This camera I've got now is pretty good. I think I can get a couple hours out of it. I'm not sure how long I've been doing this video so far. I'm not checking my time right now, but even then, battery and all that, right? Okay, I'm hoping at least I can get to the end of this section, and maybe then it'll be a good time to have a break and a camera recharge, and then we'll come back and get this finished. Suppose it's even possible we'll get that top handle done, but the feathers might have to wait for a little later in the day. So if you see me change scene, that's probably almost definitely what's going on. Okay. Just if I bring this all inside, I might show you the last step from an office or a bedroom or something. Okay, last bead, pop it in, needle through. Tie this off. I'm gonna trim the ends wherever I had knots, and then I think it's probably best if I pause there. Maybe I'll be daring and attempt to show you the next part first. Okay. Knot it off. Had a little extra thread this time. It's totally fine, totally cool. So yeah, just go under a thread and bring it back up through that little hole there. And nail polish. Trim. Okay, I'm gonna try to show you the next part. So you're gonna take a piece of your suede or your wrap. I feel like this one's a little long and a little uneven, so let me give it a bit of a trim. And I'm just going to go along the side, edge it off, even it off a little. I want this to be a touch thinner. And as I say, a little more even. This isn't going to be wrapped, it's going to be showing more, so. Okay, maybe there. Alright, so what we're going to do, get it roughly the length that you're happy with. And this is longer than I want. So I'm actually, I'd like it to be about this long, I think. I'm gonna cut it a little longer than that. And are we still going? Yeah. Okay, so what I like to do then is I'm gonna find where that knot is. I'm gonna lay this over, bring it back and around, and we're gonna tie a knot. Although I feel like this is the front, so let me turn that backwards. Okay, so let's go behind, make our loop, bring it under on either side. Okay, so this is the front. I'm gonna cross them over and tie it at the back. And then I'm going to put a bit of glue under where the knot goes. Just going to sort of play around with how I want this to look. Yeah, so let's go across like a little X. And bring that loop over. And I want to give this one more wrap here, I think. Just see if we're happy with it before we sort of secure this. Okay, so like that, it's kind of X'd it around. I'm gonna knot it. I'm gonna throw a bit of glue underneath or inside the knot. And if you want to leave a little bit hanging there or have a little extra there, you can. If you don't want this piece at all, you can leave it out. And if you want to cut it nice and tight after, that would be the other option. So I'm going to throw some glue in there, and then I think we're going to have to pause and we'll come back for the feather part a little bit later. This glue is going bad. I'm glad I bought some more recently. So we'll loosen the knot, get a bit of glue inside, just press it in there. Make that nice and tight, and you can hold it if you want, but you don't really need to, like if you want to tie it. I'll be back with you shortly. I'm gonna let this dry, trim it off, and then I'll show you how you can attach the feathers. And hopefully I'll have this video for you within the day still. Alright, I'll be back in a bit. Okay, I'm rested, I'm back. I'm ready to go on the next part here. For the feathers, what I've decided to do is one feather on either side of my larger hoops, and then I'm going to have one coming down at the bottom of my small one. So that's, for me, is going to be 5 different additions. For that, I've prepared 5 strips. I've made these thinner than my wrapping ones. My wrapping ones were probably about 4 millimeters, 5 millimeters wide. These ones are going to be 2 or 3. We want it to be slim enough that it can fit into the beads, and you want it of a length that folded over will have a length, like an amount of dangle that you're happy with. So the next thing to pick out are beads. I'm gonna do white, black, white. I like to use 3. I feel like it balances it out neatly. They could all be of the same colors, or you could have different beads for different sections. I would encourage symmetry though. Another kind of bead you could look at is something like these, if you wanted to go with longer ones as well. The other benefit of 3 beads together is there's more room for the feather to sit inside and for it to cover the glue. The last thing you're going to need for the feather side additions are the feathers. So what I've decided for mine is I'm going to have a white and a red on either side of the top. I'll do a white and a blue on the middle section. And then I have white and black for my bottom. You can layer these up. You can have all in the same color. You can have 3 feathers, and if you were so inclined, you can have, I'll just show you this quickly. I'm not going to do it, but you could do something like this. where you have one set of beads and feathers, and then towards the end another one, and you would attach both of them using the same strategies, except the top one you would just push further up. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. Other notes here, I've got a twist tie, like a little wire. I'm hoping I won't need it, but sometimes the beads don't like to go onto the wrap, and in that case you can actually wrap your leather and slide that into the bead if it's being a little stubborn. Okay, so I think I've got this more or less evened out. I just found a little lumpy part there, so try and smooth that a bit. I'm gonna fold my piece over as evenly as I can. Decide where I'd like to place it. I'm thinking about here. Put the loop over, and I'm gonna take the tail and press them, bring them under the hoop rim and catch them through this hole. So they're gonna go under and up and around. You can adjust it to where you want it, even it out a little bit. I'm gonna get my glue handy here in just a second. Okay, so that's where it's gonna hang. Now I'm gonna put some glue on right away. And to do this, we loosen the knot just a little, dab your glue, carefully put it on the inside, and pull tight. And you can hold that there for a minute if you'd like. It is knotted on, but the glue will help hold it nice and steady where it is and keep it nice and tight. Okay. If it's easier for you, you can do this part first for all of the sections, but I'm gonna do these one at a time, just in case there are any adjustments that need doing or whatnot. So I'm gonna take my beads and I'm gonna get them onto both of the tails. This can be a little tricky, as I say. I've brought my little wire here in case. You might also find in some cases that you need to trim your leather a little bit more, or in a worst case scenario you might have to try a different kind of bead. If you find, as you see here, that one side is a little longer than the other, you can trim these all even at the end. You can leave them a little uneven, or you could adjust where that knot is if you feel like it needs to be leveled out some more. And I think I'm gonna keep my feather near the bottom, so let me put on my black bead. We'll bring that up to the white, and my last one was another white here. Okay. Alright, so the feathers I've chosen for this section are the white and the red. And what we're going to be doing is pressing these inside of the beads. But before I do that, what I'll do is pull my bottom bead down a little bit, and I'm going to put some glue in there. So it's going to go right onto the suede. It's okay if a little bit gets on the bead. Now we press the bead back up and kind of rub the excess glue off, and as quickly and carefully as you can, press those two feathers into the bead. Try and get those inside. This does not want to go. We'll press it as far up as we comfortably can without breaking the feathers, and sometimes they will break. So you can see my red one here is a little bit flimsy to begin with. Oh no. go. And I might even end up just putting some glue on top of this to help it fit in. Sometimes it's also a matter of trimming your feather so it's a little bit sharper or sturdier on the end. I'm not having very much success here. Maybe I'll try my other red. Could also be an indication that I've made things too thick. And again, the other option could be to just keep it at one feather. I'm not sure why I'm having so much trouble here though. Could be these are not good feathers. Well, I'm gonna put the reds aside and I'm gonna do another section then. So if you feel like you know what to do here, you can trim your ends or leave them loose, and feel free to jump ahead and see the finished result or complete this on your own. If you want to stick with me, I'm gonna do the other sections the same way, and if yeah, and when I get to the end there, I'll try a different kind of feather. See if I can make that red one work. Sometimes I find I need to just step back and work on another part and come back to it after. Especially since I got you waiting there to see the results. We'll come back to it. So I'm doing that kind of slip knot over. This is with the blue. Get my beads on. Yeah, I'm wondering if, I'm hoping the problem is just with the feathers that I use. Maybe a different kind or different color will work better. As I say, in a worst case scenario, I could just leave it with white feathers only, which would still look nice, but I was hoping to get those accents in. And depending on the thickness of your leather or whatnot, and depending on the size of the holes in your beads, you might have more or less ease with that part. Hopefully more ease, less difficulty. Okay, so this is maybe 3 inches from the top. I'm going to try and bring this up so it's sitting about the same distance as on the upper one. And get my feathers ready. Suppose you could even try to place them and then move it a little out of the way for the glue after. But either which way. And you might find that it'll hold even without the glue. Like, that might be just tight enough to not be a problem anyway. I'm wondering, now I'm looking at this white feather, the top of my white feather is rather thick. I wonder if I trimmed that, maybe I could fit my other one in a little bit better. Except that might just come apart here. Okay, well, I'm gonna just try this. At least the blue one is pretty slim. I can keep them close enough together going in, it just might work. Yay, I think we're good. Okay, so yeah, you can hold it there if you want for a little bit, but if it's gone through, it's probably good to stay. I'm gonna make another blue one on the opposite side. Sorry, I gotta turn this around. Trying to make it go evenly on the opposite side. I want it to sit at about the same distance from the top and from the bottom. Get rid of these twists as best we can. And that looks fairly even. Throw on a bit more glue. I really do love this glue. It holds and hides so nicely. white, white, black, white. Now if you wanted a second set of beads, you could, like I say, just move these further up and then repeat it again closer to the bottom of your strands here. That's two and one more. I'm gonna have to figure out something for that top with the where the red were. Okay, and I'm gonna try and balance this all out and bring it down just a little bit. And that looks pretty even. We've got our white and our blue ready. Pull down one of those beads and throw a little glue inside. Oh, this glue is getting so lumpy. I've had this for years and I think I got the glue secondhand to begin with, but I think I've probably had this bottle of glue for like 8 years. I've been using it. And now it is starting to harden a little, but it's served me well over the years. Again, if I can get my blue and my white in together, they will support each other. That is so nice. Okay, I'm gonna do the bottom one, and then as I say, I might have to come back later to finish that top with the red, but I'll check out what else I've got. This bottom one, I'm gonna put it right in the middle of the bottom. And again, we bring the tail ends under, up and through the space that we've created. Even them out as much as we can. Center it as much as we can. A little more glue. And tight. Now if you wanted, you could do 2 more on the side of the small one, or even just 2 at the bottom. It's really up to you. You get different effects depending on which approach you use. Okay. White beads. You can also see, if you haven't noticed already, I've trimmed the ends into very fine points. And that helps get everything threaded on. If it's a big square, then you have to sort of bunch and fold and pry and try, and it's much harder to do. Another alternative, if you're not feeling the feathers and you want to go a little less traditional, you could put charms on instead, or hang charms off. And if you wanted to make more of a fringe and have that go around, that would be another thing you could do, I suppose. Trying to keep this on camera here. Alright, and almost ready with my white and the black here. Bring down that last bead. The reason I do this is so that the glue is hidden and it's securing the bead, and the feathers are sitting underneath it, so nobody can really see how this is all holding. Well, that one went in nice and easy. Okay, let me turn it around, try getting the other side at the top here started, and then I'll see what my options are for red in that section. Now, there's our top, there's our side. Think about here. Okay, I might have to fiddle around with this a little bit just to make sure these are even on both sides. That's close, not quite, maybe a little lower. I think a little lower. reattach that underneath the black. Maybe just in here. Again, if you're hardcore, you can certainly like measure it out. I'm trying to get close is what I'm looking at. I'm looking for some symmetry. That suits me fine. I think that's pretty okay. Okay, we're getting close to done. These are the last one. This is the last one for beads, and then I've got a couple more feathers I'd like to get on, and then I can hold this up for you, and we'll see the end product. My white bead, black bead. You can see I'm pinching the ends together. I feel like that makes it easier to get the beads on all in one shot, even if it means a little bit of straightening out after the fact. And as I say, you can always trim these if they're really not to your liking. This one feels pretty tight. Uh-oh, that's because this one's slipping out. No bother. No. It's going so smoothly there. Okay. And a little further down. Think about there. A little glue. And I'm going to be daring and try and get in my red one more time. And if that works, I'll try and get the red on the other side again. If it's not going in, then, as I say, I might have to go with white or pink or something else. So it looks like the trick on this one is to try and hold the tops very close together. So my white ones are a little bit thicker and stronger. Yeah, the red just does not want to go in. It's coming. See, my tip is coming apart there. Okay. Well, I'm gonna finish the video here. I'm gonna keep playing around with those the red feathers and see if I can find something that works for me. But in the meantime, we'll hold it up and let you check it.